Hey, it says we're live. Hello and welcome to Apex Instant Tips, episode number 157, brought to you most Fridays at 12:05 Eastern Time. We're your hosts. I'm Anton.
And I'm Marwa. Hi, Anton.
Hey, Marwa. Good to see you again. We have kind of a long tip today, so we'll probably jump in right away. It's not so much the tip is long, it's that explaining all the stuff to get to starting the tip takes a little bit of time. The background, the setup.
Yes.
So I'll jump right in and share my screen. So you've used in Apex regions that are refreshable, like chart regions, that kind of thing. And all you have to do to make the region refreshable is you do, well, they're automatically refreshable. Hey, Matt. What you need to do is you create a dynamic action. So I have this dynamic action right here. Anytime I change P1 heat or P1 order by, I'm going to refresh this graph region. So when I change this to 10, it refreshes the graph region. When I change this, it changes. So it does all of these things. It has this behavior. But some region types don't have this behavior. You can't do this. So do you know any region types that you can't do it with?
Yes. For example, static region, you cannot refresh them.
Right. Exactly. So I wanted a heat map chart, and we'll talk about what that is in just a second. But I wanted a heat map chart, and I went and I looked, and there's no heat map chart available. You can't do a heat map natively in Apex. So that meant I was going to have to do my own. I tried it with a scatter plot. I tried a bunch of different things. I couldn't. There was no heat map at all. But let's look at what I did, and then we'll talk about a little bit about how I got there. So I'm going to show my heat map. So I'm going to uncomment that. Here's a heat map, and so you can see if you combine milk with milk, the heat's pretty low. It's chill. But if you combine milk with habanero peppers and chili oil, that is crazy hot.
Wow.
All right. Peanut butter chocolate chip cookies with milk, chill. Peanut butter chocolate chip cookies with chili crunch, crazy hot. Right. You put chili mac and cheese with habanero peppers. That's just mean.
That's just mean.
So there we go. You can see this is a pretty decent little heat map, but there's no heat map type. So the question I have for you is, how would you go about building a heat map?
Well, I would go and try with the dynamic content and construct this type of region.
Right. I think that's a great approach. And one of the nice things about the dynamic PL/SQL content regions, they are natively refreshable. If you do a dynamic HTML region, they just refresh, boom, they work just the way they should. Love it.
Exactly.
And so if I do this, it refreshes. If I do this, it refreshes. It's all, just what you might want. So it's great. But the thing is, I wanted this to be very reusable. I didn't, those PL/SQL content regions, they're not so reusable. So I wanted to make this really reusable. And so I thought, how about, what do you suggest?
Reusable. For reusable components, I would just use plugins.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I wanted to do, a region plugin. So I actually went out and I looked to see, are there any heat map region plugins? And I found a few heat map region plugins for Apex. Unfortunately, they all had some issues that I didn't like. Every one of them had some cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. I definitely didn't like this cross-site scripting vulnerabilities. Many of them used external libraries that I wasn't really comfortable with. They had a variety of reasons that I decided I'm going to write my own region plugin. And I'll be honest, I'm not even 100% sure that I love the approach I finally took. I would have liked to use the grid widget and so forth, but it looks pretty good. It works great. It does everything I need. But the other thing that none of those region plugins had was the ability to just refresh. They didn't do this refresh thing, right? Without, you had to submit the page to get it to refresh. Would you believe it took me as long to figure out how to refresh this thing as it did to write the heat map?
I can imagine that. I can imagine that.
All right. Well, I think it's time to turn on the timer because this was the setup. So how do you get a region plugin to refresh? That's really it. They don't natively happen. If you have to do something to make a region plugin natively refreshable. But I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to show that this region plugin is in fact just refreshed by it's just all it is it says refresh the heat map region, and the heat map region is of type heat map. It's mine, and I went through and I did a lot of work, shared components, plugins, and we've got my heat map region. And if I show you this code, you're going to see there's a pretty big chunk of code, but most of this code, almost all of this code, is about building the heat map and has nothing at all to do with actually refreshing the region. The only part that has to do with refreshing the region is this render heat map and the Ajax heat map callback. And you can see these are tiny little bits of code. There's not much code at all here. So what I did was I said, well, wait a minute. This is ridiculous. Every region plugin, every time somebody wants a region plugin, they're going to want to be able to do this, right? So what I did was I built a little bit of boilerplate. I'm going to come out here. I made this region plugin right here. This region plugin doesn't do much at all. It does almost nothing. All it does is it allows you to submit things in, and it refreshes. That's it.
It's a boilerplate, but has less code.
Less code, right. But anybody can download this plugin and start with it, and they automatically get region refresh. And so let's walk through how it works, this boilerplate one, because this has got a lot of code. This has got almost no code at all. So we're going to go back. We're going to look at the same thing, but we're going to look at our boilerplate plugin.
Okay, yes. So before we go to see that plugin, can you check your sound a little bit? You seem a little bit too far, maybe.
Oh, let's see what I can do here. I should turn off my timer if I'm checking out my sound. Audio. Yes. Aha. That did not go well. Let's see. No, that's not working. How about? I can't seem to change my sound.
Still can hear you clearly, but it's okay.
Okay. Well, I definitely am using the wrong mic, but the StreamYard is not letting me switch to any other. I don't know why. That's really strange.
We can continue. We still can hear you.
All right. So
Matt says he can hear you well.
So at least Matt can hear me. So okay. So I'm going to keep going. But it's funny because the StreamYard's not using the right mic. Anyway, here we go. So this is key. This code has very little to do. This output cloud, all output cloud does is it says, okay, well, I know HTTP.prn can't do something bigger than 32.767. So if my region's bigger than that, I'm going to use this to spin through it. So you don't have to worry much about that at all. The region HTML, that's where you concentrate. If you're using this boilerplate plugin, you stay here, you do everything you want here. You basically don't have to touch anything else. It all just works. The actual render function where you think you need to do most of your work, that actually calls that region HTML. And my mouse just stopped working. It calls region HTML to get that HTML. So right somewhere,
Right there.
somewhere, yeah. Thanks. Right somewhere, it calls region HTML. And so what it does is I I I run this little insum init my region, and that's a bit of JavaScript code. That happens on load. On load, it does insum init my region. And insum init my region is, um, and I'll just point out the Ajax callback, all it does is calls that region HTML to get the HTML, and it wrappers it in a region. So this JavaScript code is really where all of the magic happens. So let me get to that. This JavaScript code, all it really does is it calls apex region.create, and it creates it. Well, why don't you tell me, Marwa, what does apex region create do?
This is the hardest part, maybe, Anton, but like
That's why I left it for you.
yes, I would say that it's not like exactly creating a region, but registering it and specifying on refresh action what to do.
Yeah, I think it's poorly named. I think you're right. It's not really creating it. It's because the HTML is already there. It's telling the Apex engine, what do I do when I refresh this? And so you do that right here. You say, okay, when the region is refreshed, what do you do? So let's walk through it. What do we do here? What's line 15 do?
Well, we have our spinner to indicate to the user that we are refreshing the region.
Okay. Then the next line, 16.
And then we are calling the Ajax callback of the plugin, and we are replacing the HTML of that region.
Right. We get back the HTML that our region HTML generates, toss it back in here, and then the last thing we do,
We remove
the spinner. Yeah. So that's it. That's really the key element. I'm going to say pause that. I'm going to say that's the tip. And here we have it. We have an Ajax region that does exactly what we want it to. It does all of the refreshing just the way we want it to. We get all the values, and that's it. It's that magic little bit of JavaScript. That little bit of JavaScript, though, figuring it out, I couldn't find anywhere on the internet. And so we're past our 5 minutes tip. Now it's just ramblings. But but the yeah, I couldn't find it anywhere. And I really think when you create a region plugin, like you just go through the wizard and you say create region plugin, they should just create it like this. It should be just this plugin. And I'm going to put out an Apex idea in the Apex Ideas app that whenever you create any kind of plugin, they put a sample one in there that has the most common things you would need to do. Because every single region plugin you ever create is probably going to want to do exactly what I did here. It's going to want to do exactly this.
We will need to refresh those regions in many use cases. And I would vote for that idea if you ever submit it.
Okay, I will submit that today. I'm going to go one step farther though, and this is my jump the shark segment, where I take the whole thing a little too far. If folks don't know what jump the shark is about, it goes back to oh, I see another idea to vote for too. We're supposed to, so we'll go back and vote for 4067. I'm going to go look for that as well. But my jump the shark today is going a little too far. It goes back to Happy Days. This idea of jumping the shark, it means going too far. So as we talked about, static regions are not refreshable, right?
Yes.
So if I go in here, I actually have a static region. This is a static region right here. I'll uncomment it. You can see it's static content, right? And you can see I have a refresh this static region. So, and it just says refresh the region. And if I do that, you'll see here's my static region. And if I change the heat, nothing happens.
Nothing.
And nothing happens because static regions are not refreshable, right?
Right.
Except we now know how we can register it and tell the Apex engine it should be refreshable.
And this is what you do once it's refreshed.
Right. And this is what you should, exactly. So I can come in here, I can put in a little execute on when page loads, and I can do essentially the same thing we just talked about. I can create or register the my static region, and I can say, when it refreshes, I want you to, and this time instead of running a plugin process, I'm going to run my refresh proc, which is an Ajax callback. So as soon as I do this, I don't think I made any changes. Oh yes, I did. I need to uncomment top and bottom. So I'll uncomment it and save that and run it. Save that. I'll point out I do have an Ajax callback process. Refresh my proc. When I do this, now my static region is refreshable as well.
Wow, and you're getting the value of the
That's right.
item and the
Right,
region.
because if I go back there in my heat, in my static region, I have P1 heat right there. So even static regions can be made refreshable and declaratively. And I'm going to go so far as to say, I'm confident I could write a plugin that would automatically make all static regions refreshable. That you could just put this on in your app, and suddenly all of your static regions would become refreshable. Why Apex hasn't done that, made them refreshable? I'm not sure why, but I'm confident I could. I haven't done it because it truly would be jumping the shark. I haven't had anybody ask me to do it, and it would take a little bit of time, but it's definitely doable.
It is doable and it is very useful. Yes.
And the other reason I haven't done it is I know that all I have to do is tell Marwa that something can be done, and often she'll come back and she'll tell me in a couple of weeks, "Oh, I did it." So I don't have to do it. I can just wait for Marwa to do it.
Okay, I'll give it a try. Okay.
Okay. So I think that's all we have for today. Oh, Mark, this plugin is available on my GitHub. We have the link. We just pasted it into the comments. We'll also put it in the show notes. If you install this region plugin, it will do everything you see in the boilerplate. The reason it's green, I'll just point out one last thing. The reason it's green is that particular plugin, I put in a CSS file as well. And all it is, this is just a placeholder to say, okay, this is the background color. And I did it the right way, right? I used the variable for the color, that kind of thing. But you can do whatever you want to have right here. Thanks, Brian. Have a great weekend. Everyone else as well. People have wasted a perfectly good. Oh, wow, Marwa, this was a long show. 18 minutes.
18 minutes. Right.
Yeah. Ooh, sorry, everyone. Too long for a Friday, especially for Marwa, because it's like 8 p.m. or something in Tunisia.
It's still like 5 p.m., 5:30. Almost
5:30 on a Friday evening. Well, thank you, Marwa, for joining us on your Friday evenings. And thank everybody else for watching. If you like the tip, this is a 5-minute tip that politicians work. If you liked the show, like the show, do all the things that you want. That says that the region, the get love. Oh no, yeah, that's not quite right. It shouldn't have the second and A Nielsen. It ends. Let me get the right link there. A Nielsen. That's it. That starts getting you there, and then if you go to region plugin example right there, that's it. So I'll pop that in there. So that was my mistake. I gave the wrong one. There we go. So now we have the right link. We'll get that link out in the show notes as well. All right. Now, finally, you've wasted a perfectly good 19 minutes. If you like the show, do all the things, send letters to all your friends, tell your mom about the show. We'll see you next week, probably, maybe.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.